Hello, my witchy friends. Welcome to the 8th episode of Cat's Tea and Witchcraft. Today's episode is going to go over budget-friendly stores, and I'm also going to go over some things that you can do for everyday witchcraft that doesn't necessarily involve casting spells or circles. As many of you guys have probably found out on your own and from me bringing it up a couple times in the first 7 episodes, witchcraft isn't necessarily a cheap thing, but you can make it because there are supplies that can get a little pricey depending on what you prefer, but also witchcraft takes a lot of time. It's not just something that you can do here and there and then completely be able to submerge yourself into it spiritually or emotionally or anything. There's so much you need to be involved with between personal studies and just practice. But because there are days or maybe long extended periods where you can't always do complicated ritual or magic work, there's little things that you can do to keep you in the mind space and the mindset, or just to help you feel like you're not losing your connection with your spirituality or your craft every day. Because adult life, and even in your teenage life if you are a little bit younger, witchcraft can keep you very busy, but also our mundane life is just as important. And there may be periods in your life to where you just cannot dedicate enough time that you would like to, but doing some little things every day, a part of your normal routine, can just help you feel like you're not slipping. So the first thing that I'm really going to focus on is the budget-friendly stores. Most of these places actually all of these places that I've listed actually purchased items from, except for one of them because it is a hit or miss option. So I'm going to go over all of these options today for you. But since I'm in the United States, some of these stores might not be available because I've never traveled overseas. So I don't know what stores are available. So if you have stores that are comparable to these options, say you're in the UK or Europe or just different areas of the world, there's a lot of you guys out there that I've noticed that are listening into the podcast, and I appreciate every single one of you. So I'm going to go over ones that are in the United States, and then if you have these stores in your own country or stores that are very similar, look into them because it could have the same options for you. So the first store that I have on my list, and I definitely know this one is an international store, is Walmart. I know some people do not like Walmart for reasons, but it has the options that you need to get some supplies. I have gotten candles, essential oils, and aromatherapy oils from Walmart in various different areas. I've been to Walmarts in different parts of the country, and they kind of tend to have the same things. You can also get jars and glassware. If you're using plates during rituals, it doesn't have to be a fancy schmancy, super elaborate bowl unless that's what you want. You can get some cheap glassware at Walmart. I've gotten one that has some flowers on it that I'll use in the spring, and it does the job. If you have one of those more super Walmarts, and I think most of them are turning into that, or have food options, you could technically buy your spices and herbs from there if they have the things that you need. If you're getting stuff that's fresh and you use it fresh, then just buy the fresh produce. But if you would like to dry it out on your own, you'll just have to figure out how to appropriately dry the herbs that you've purchased. And just like most grocery stores, you're probably going to find pre-bagged and pre-boxed tea. So if you're looking for some pretty easy teas to use, you can get the tea and use that in some spells as well. I've gotten tea bags from stores just to reduce the cost, because some herbs that are found in tea can be pretty expensive depending on your source. So I have purchased tea, I've opened the bags and then put them in a jar so I can just pull it out as I need it and not have to rip open a bag of tea every time I want to do a spell or mix something up. And since you can pretty much do all your grocery shopping at some Walmarts, you could do the same thing for other grocery stores, mostly when it comes to herbs and spices, because you're not really going to find a large selection of candles at every grocery store, but some of them you can. And then some other things you can get at Walmart that's not food related are school supplies, especially during back to school season when the prices drop significantly. Buy a box of composition notebooks or spiral notebooks or 3-ring binders and loose leaf paper. You don't need to get super expensive leather bound books because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to want to rewrite things, or you might want to type them up and print them and have them all nice and laid out on the computer that you've typed up yourself, and then put it into some plastic slips and then put it into a notebook. I do that myself because I am not the biggest fan of my handwriting, and sometimes you just get super lazy and you just want something to look a little more fresh, so you type it up, print it out, and then it looks a lot more clean. And another thing that you can surprisingly find at Walmart is incense and incense holders. I have seen some pretty cute incense holders that look like trees, look like wolves, and look like different things at Walmart. So pretty generic, but they do the job. I think at one point, and I think I still have it, is one that looks like a dragon, and you put cone incense in it, and then the smoke comes out of the mouths. And that was one of the first ones that I ever got because I've just always loved dragons and dinosaurs. Anything reptile like I've always liked. The next store that I'm going to go over is Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is a 99-cent or a dollar store to get supplies. And since it's the one that I find has actual items under $1, I know in my area there's also Family Dollar, but I've heard that not everything is an actual dollar. It's just reduced prices. So it's a little more similar to a Five Below. But I prefer Dollar Tree because the things that I have found there I prefer for the price range that I'm looking for. Some of the things that I regularly get from Dollar Tree are candles and candle holders, depending on the color and the season that I'm working with. You can also get school supplies, glassware, and jars. I have 2 chalices. One is a little bit more fancy, but the other chalice I have, depending on how I'm feeling, is literally just a plain glass cup. I think it looks more like a martini glass, but it's a little bit thicker in the base and around it, and it kind of has bubbles on the inside of the glass, but it kind of gives it its own personality. But it was literally less than $1 or exactly $1. I'm not sure, but it was $1 and no more, and it's actually quite pretty. Going back to candles, I've gotten 7-day candles of varying colors. And I've also got tea-light candles and taper candles. Sometimes, depending on the stock they might have more of one color or the other. But I have found for the 7-day candles, there's white, green, red, and blue, and yellow. So that kind of hits all your elements right there. And for the tea-light candles, obviously you can get white, but I found green, red, purple, and blue as well. And when it comes to other things, moving away from candles, you can get seasonal decorations. On occasion, I will get my decorations from Dollar Tree because they're just cheap and pretty cute. And then if they get ruined or I decide I no longer want to use them, I can just toss them or donate them. If you are really into recycling or reusing things, you can always just donate stuff, and if someone wants it, they can take it. But also, since I have not invested in statues or figures yet, I use picture frames. I print out and or design or draw a picture of my deities that I'm working with, and I'll put them on my altar or on the wall, and then there is your representation. What I also do along with the pictures, I will put a description, the name, and anything associated with the deities, just to kind of have it in front of my face in case I'm forgetting some of their aspects, because different deities can have similarities to other deities, but then also they can have their own traits. Okay, so moving on to the next type of store are craft supply stores. The ones that I have around me are Michael's. There's also Hobby Lobbies, but because of the association with Hobby Lobby, not a lot of witches like to shop there for good reasons. But because I have said, and I also do not like to bash other religions, I'm not going to say anything negative that comes with that. So if you are unsure about what I'm talking about, go ahead and do some research on Hobby Lobby and make your own decision. But if it is the only store around you for arts and crafts, maybe you might have to settle for it, or if it really bothers you, you might have to find another one of these stores that I'm referencing to get some of your supplies. So my preferred craft store is Michael's, and they also have jars and candles. They also have tools to make your own candles, which is really, really fun, really, really cool. And then with that, it makes it easier for you to put your own herbs and stuff inside of the candle and pick your own colors. You can also get seasonal decorations. You could also get string and twine if you work with, I think it's called string magic, or using magic and putting the intentions into it. You could also use rope. And then when it comes to other supplies like your wands or different things that you can hand make, if you want to hand make your tools, I would totally encourage you to do that because it makes it more personal and you might be able to connect with it easier. The only figures that I actually have is a goddess statue, and I actually made it myself out of modeling clay. Even though I am not an expert while using clay, I feel like it is a little more customized and personal, and I used it during my moon rituals. Sometimes people will encourage or tell you that you can get crystals and beads from craft stores, which is true, but I would suggest with caution, if you are looking at any sort of crystals or stone beads to use, there is a chance, and you might have to look at the ingredients and look up reviews on certain products, is sometimes if you get crystals from craft store, they are heat treated, or they are a regular quartz, like clear quartz, but they are injected with dye. So if they're said they're amethyst or something else, it might not be true. It just might be a representation. It could still be regular quartz, but if I get any sort of beads and crystals from craft stores, I assume they are not real, and sometimes they are plastic. So I wouldn't recommend getting these from these stores, but if you have found sources that are truly real, maybe it's a store that's not Michael's and you just found a really good source at a craft store, do your research on what might be real or not, because if you're finding out those products that you are using during spells, or if you're meditating with them and they don't feel like they're working, that might be the reason, is because they might not be truly what they were described to be. And I know sometimes this irks people when you say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, it's all about the intention. Yes, intention is very important, but if the things you are using are fake, like crystals that are very particular for the uses, you can't say plastic is going to do the same thing as a stone or a crystal. It's just not how that goes. There are certain things that intent just isn't enough. If intent was the only thing that drove your magic, you wouldn't need supplies at all. So moving on, the next kind of store in between a dollar store and not a dollar store is Five Below, and I mentioned that a couple minutes ago. You can also get decorations at Five Below. You can get occasionally some cool candles, but you don't have the same variety that you can get at Dollar Tree. You could definitely get incense and incense holders, which I have also gotten from Five Below, and they have some pretty good smells. I have noticed that their patchouli and rose incense smell pretty decent. I have also purchased spiritual items such as mirrors of moons and different spiritual quotes on decorations, which are really, really adorable. They're not always in season, I guess. They might rotate every season, or as they get things, they rotate their stock. And those are adorable. My entire bathroom is moon themed, and I got most of those decorations from Five Below. You could also get rugs and yoga mats from Five Below if you incorporate those into your practice. And I have seen stools and sitting pillows that you can also get there as well. And you could get some shelving, but I have found cool little wall hangers or shelves that you can put things such as your crystals or your little tools on top of, and you can give it a cool aesthetic in your meditating or your craft area. I have seen crystals at Five Below, but I would not recommend using them in your actual craft. If you like them and they look pretty, use them as decoration, but I would still say they might not actually work. So I have 2 more places to suggest for budget-friendly options. The next one, there's not a specific name for it or place that I'd recommend, but you can go to thrift stores or pre-owned bookstores if you're looking for books. But for thrift stores, this is the option that I said is hit or miss. It all depends on where you live and what people are donating, but a lot of people repurpose furniture that they found, like shelves or regular bookshelves, and they repaint them and they sand them or they flip them and sell them as well. But if you're looking for some bookshelves and you're not trying to build a brand new one or you're trying to paint one, thrift stores are great. People have also found tea sets and other tools that they use because people get rid of things, and maybe they got rid of things that were their family members and they didn't know what it was, so they just donate it. And then someone else's trash or their old treasure of someone who has passed is now a part of your rituals, and you reuse them, and maybe you might get a really cool connection with them. But if you purchase something from a thrift store, please cleanse it before you use it as a tool. I would even say cleanse your bookshelves. You can use smoke cleansing, or if you have a sage spray, spray that shit, because there might be some weird energies that come from pre-owned materials. And the last place where you can get very cost-friendly items is nature. It's not a store. It's the one place that you can find things that are 100% natural as long as it is not man-made trash. You can get sticks, feathers, if you use leaves or acorns, dirt, sand, water. Nature is a major source of magic because it is natural and it is our source of energy and magic. It is the most natural you can get. I would say if you are picking things off of trees or bushes and it is still alive and not something you have found on the ground, ask the plant for permission. Maybe it is a particular type of plant in your practice. I know there are certain trees that you should not disturb in Wicca, but if you are just a witch that is not Wiccan and you feel like you might be pulling off of something that's living, ask it for permission. If you feel like it is giving you the permission, then go ahead and pull it ethically. Don't tear the entire bush down or the tree or a giant chunk of it. Just take what you need and then say thank you. I know some people work with bones. I do not personally, but if you find animal bones that are outside, maybe you're walking through the woods, I would say with caution, germs still exist and magic does not exclude you from germs or bacteria. So if you're using bones and you are ethically sourcing them, maybe ask for permission, like I said with the trees, and maybe you'll get a feeling if you should pick it up or don't, but use gloves, bag it, and find the appropriate way to cleanse it. I do not have the guts to do that myself because germs, but if that is the tradition that you are using that uses bones, do what you need to do. I would only recommend using animal bones. If you hunt, or maybe you grow and breed your own sources of food, like chicken, if you, whatever your tradition is, just do things ethically because for the sake of energy, do not be cruel. That is the full list of stores and places that I would recommend getting budget-friendly tools from. I would say, just as a PSA, if you wait till the end of a holiday season, because non-witch holidays kind of line up with our holidays, wait till the end of a holiday season and get decorations when they're on sale and at their cheapest. You might not be able to use them this year, but then you can use them for the next holiday season and just store them. I hope the list of stores and things that you can get that are cost friendly help you out. You can splurge if you have the opportunity, but I know for people who are just getting started, and sometimes I just don't feel like spending $10 on a single candle or have the time or the energy to make my own, so I'll just go to the dollar store. They might not be beeswax, they might not be soy based, but if you don't care about that, get the budget friendly candles. So, like I said, I am also going to go over options for everyday witchcraft. These are not necessarily things that will require full spells or casting circles or anything of the such, but it's things you can literally incorporate into your day-to-day mundane routine. And sometimes you do these on your own and don't realize them, and they just become so natural. I know I take my baths or showers in the morning, and if I'm feeling really up to it, if I'm taking a bath, and you can do this too, you can add herbs or oils to your bath. And when you are taking your bath, you could also do it with your shower. If you hang herbs around the shower head or you put them into a scrub that you use, visualize your negative energy going down the drain and washing off of you. You could also take this time to ground and center. You can use the techniques that I described in episode 7 for grounding and centering, and it kind of incorporates cleansing yourself physically, but also emotionally and mentally, and just setting your intentions for the day. If you are coffee or tea drinkers, you can add spices that have specific representations and purposes. When you drink your tea, you can add those to it. And then if you stir it in a clockwise motion, it can help promote positivity and help also get your intent really boosting after you've done your centering and grounding. If you have a green thumb and a garden, or even household plants that are living, not fake plants, when you take care of them, you can use moon water and water your plants with your moon water. You can also just bond with them a little bit when you're tending to them and you're taking off dead leaves or changing the dirt in them. Try to connect with them, because if you believe they have an energy source of their own, they are technically living creatures. Work with them. If they are herbs that you use in your spells, take care of them. Treat them as family or a friend and show them love, and just think about it. And if you are a green witch or a kitchen witch, whatever your practice is, this can just be an even better way to make a connection with your tools. If you have the time to meditate, meditating is also a good option. Like taking a shower or using your tea and coffee, you can take this time to ground and center and focus on your day-to-day life. Some people meditate and use it as a way to connect with their guides or deities as well. And you don't need to meditate for 30 minutes or an hour. Even just a couple minutes makes the difference. Something that I do at least a couple times a week is writing in my journal and writing down my dreams. When you write about your day, no matter how boring or how mundane it is, it can help you focus on your personal emotions, or if it is something magical, it helps you keep track of what you have done or things that have happened. Maybe your guides or your deities have reached out to you and you want to remember that and jot it down for future reference. I have been recording my dreams since I was a teenager, and that was even before I realized it could be incorporated into magic and before I even identified as a witch. When you record your dreams, sometimes they don't make sense right up front, or if you have repetitive dreams, there might be a reason you're thinking about it. It could be just something subconscious that you're thinking about that you need to fix in your daily life, such as relationship or personal or work problems, and you're getting these symbols and you just really got to figure out what these symbols are representing. Or it could be ancestors or deities or your guides reaching out to you, and we know that they love to be symbolic and not straightforward, and sometimes it takes a little while to figure it out. So writing it down and giving yourself time to ponder on it and just look at patterns, it can help you figure out what it is trying to say. And the last thing that I'm going to say is maybe you just want to light some candles. Maybe you want to honor your deities or your ancestors and spirits that you work with, and just to show that you care, show that you're thinking about them, and showing that you're appreciating them. So if you want to give them some offerings, if it's tea, if it's alcohol, if it's cake or any sort of food, or just putting some flowers on your altar for them, just let them know that you care. They are there for you, and you can't always work with them with spells or rituals because life gets in the way. They understand it. They are not going to hate you or abandon you just because you don't do it for a little bit, but you don't want to make them think like you did forget about them either. So just check up on them, light some candles, and just connect with them for a couple minutes. Okay, guys, that is all I have for you today. I did not realize that this episode would be pushing into the 25 plus minutes. So thank you for listening today. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about something that I have mentioned, you can reach out to me on social media. I have an Instagram for the podcast, and you can find it at Cats Tea and Witchcraft. On Twitter, it is Cats Tea and Witch. You can also reach out to me on YouTube at Cats Tea and Witchcraft Podcast. And there is also an email you can email me at catsteaandwitchcraftpodcast@gmail.com. I will see you guys next week, and I just want to let you know again that I appreciate every single one of you. So have a good rest of your week, and blessed be.